Hi, I'm Paul Duchesne, and today is Thursday, October 8th, 2020. Welcome to Mama Paul's Daily Diary. This is a short format, 5 to 10 minute kind of a little look at some of the news stories that are in the paper. This week there's actually 3 stories that I don't want to talk about, and I don't want to talk about Mike Pence's and the fly on his hair. Now, everybody knows that flies propagate on shit. So we could make some, silly joke that, Mike Pence is a shithead. But more interestingly is the 2 minutes that the fly spent there, which is the amount of time that each one of the debaters is supposed to have to respond back to the question. Well, Mike, neither did his boss, paid any attention to these rules. They disregarded the rules. At least the fly paid attention and left after the 2 minutes. That's good. So I don't want to talk about that story. The other story I don't want to talk about is Amy Bryant. Amy Bryant, who is our new representative for the Handmaiden's Tale. I understand she's involved with a really right-wing cult. Yeah, I'd have to call them a cult. Speaking in tongues. They're probably associated with Opus Dei. Check that out on your own if you're interested. I suspect people that are speaking in tongues generally wind up in these far right cult kind of groups. So they call themselves Catholics, but God knows what they really are. Anyway, is she a super spreader? Was the event a super spreader? I don't know. I don't want to accuse her of anything like that. Having said that, the metaphor of super spreading a virus could be sort of emblematic of what might happen if she was actually nominated. So we don't want to go there with that story. And the third story I really don't want to get into is Chris Rock opening up Saturday Night Live this weekend, their season. And he drew an analogy between karma and science coming together in Donald getting the virus. Now, we all want to wish Donald... Well, we want to wish him something, I'm sure. I'm sure everybody wants to wish Donald something. I'm sure we're feeling something about this. I have a feeling that, seeing him come out of the hospital, full of energy, and his brain is just, functioning on all cylinders. And I have a funny feeling that this guy is going to come up with, a solution to our virus problem here. And I'm sure whatever it is he comes up with, he's going to maybe kick in a bunch of his money. He's got a lot of money, right? He'll probably kick a lot of that in to help everybody else get over this. Maybe he'll even take the profits from the company that invented it and sort of shift them over so that we can all get this very cheaply. I would have faith. He's functioning on all 8 cylinders right now, so just cross your fingers and hope things work out. So those are 3 stories I absolutely do not want to get into. The story I do want to get into was sort of funny. There was a New York Times story the other day that, and it's got to do with Welcome to the Wonderful World of Plastics. The plastic story, the headline I'm showing you, was the title of an article that was in Adbusters magazine this month. And it says, I want to say one word to you. One word, whispered the voice of prudence in The Graduate. And that was the movie that Dustin Hoffman was in. Dustin Hoffman was in The Graduate and Midnight Cowboy. Those are the 2 big movies that launched his career. Welcome to the plastic world. And the picture there, you see the woman is wrapped in plastic. There's no crook or cranny on the surface of the earth that won't have microplastics in it. There's no longer any escape from the fatal plastic mistake. There's no escape from the plastic mistake. Well, that was sort of an interesting comment and where our plastic sort of came from. But let me show you the other headline. This was the headline that I found to be a positive news story last week. And it was Science Finds a Way to Speed the Breakdown of the Plastic. So let's just bring it over there. And in this story, we have 2 major companies. One is in Japan, one is not. And they're working on developing enzymes that are going to break down the plastics. Well, the real interesting thing here is that there are currently 359 million tons of plastic produced every year. And of the 359 million tons produced every year, 150 million tons wind up either in landfill or directly in the environment, which would mean marine life, ocean water, in the air we breathe. There's people walking around with microplastics in their gut. You and I probably have some there right now. It's getting into our bloodstreams. It's becoming part of our way of life. And it's not the best thing for your gut, believe me. What these guys are trying to do is they're developing these enzymes to help break down the plastics, which usually take about 450 years to break down in the water. And then they break down into these little shards, which are somewhere between 5 millimeters and 1 micrometer. And a micrometer is something to sneeze at, I'll tell you. Now, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get back to the original building block. They're trying to break the plastic down to its original building block so they can, I'm going to quote this, so that they can infinitely recycle PET plastics, the infinite recycling of PET. That's what they're trying to do. So they're trying to infinitely recycle these plastics. Does this sound sustainable to you? I don't know. I brought this story up to a couple of people who are pretty heavy environmentalists, and both of them thought that this was a lot of bullshit. The story ends by saying we created this problem in the first place and nature may provide us with a solution. They're mentioning that the enzymes are a natural solution. If you look into mushrooms, you may find out that mushrooms, certain mushrooms are able to deteriorate plastics and other toxic materials at a much greater level than some of these enzymes here. But that's another story for another day. Let's go one step further and let's take a look at the what appears to maybe be sort of a solution oriented, and this is David Attenborough, who is a world famous naturalist and biodiversifist from England. And David Attenborough he's 93 years old. He's 93. He's older than me. He's 93, and he's got a brand new movie out on Netflix. It's over an hour, and he's talking about the problem. He's talking about the situation that we're facing right now, and he's talking about the lack of biodiversity, the lack of wild in nature anymore. I think we have something like 4% of the planet is now in the wild, and 96% is civilized. And the less wild we have, the more carbon goes into the atmosphere, and the more destruction is happening. So if we don't do things, if we can't do something forever, it's unsustainable. It's one of the statements he makes. Now David is an obvious animal lover. The movie opens with him rolling in the forest with gorillas, and he's feeding platypuses, and every animal he touches seems to be his friend. He's very concerned. And the warning he gives us is he goes through these 10-year periods between now and next 100 years. He's basically saying we're into the 6th extinction on the planet within 100 years. But in 100 years, the whole thing is over. The whole thing is gone. Now, there are many environmentalists that think that his forecast is a little bit optimistic, that it's actually more like 20 or 30 years before we have a final extinction of everything on the planet. But all the solutions David comes up with, what he's telling us to do, are in a sense meaningless. They're really meaningless unless we change. I'll put me in there too. Let me get rid of that. We'll get rid of the picture there. Okay, unless we move into a new, what I call a spiritual political economy. The political economy that we've had is based on democracy and capitalism, and it doesn't have a moral basis to it. And that's what's missing. Without a moral basis, without a spiritual basis to what we're doing, we don't get anything. We wind up where we're at today. And where we're at today is we're on a suicide mission to destroy ourselves and the planet. And as David said quite emphatically, we need to learn to live with nature, save the planet, and save ourselves. Check out the show. It's called A Life on Our Planet. It's on Netflix. Peace, patience, and persistence.